Okay, so let's take a look at how you can use Hasura platform in order to create a database and then manage to connect to it for GraphQL API, right? So what we can do is we go to Hasura.io, right? Then next thing we click on get started in 30 seconds. Here we will have to register with our GitHub ID or Google ID. You can use any other email as well, and once sign up you will be getting one AWS free instance where you are going to either create a database or you can simply use any existing connection to connect, right? So what we can do is once we sign up and do what's necessary here in order to log in, we move on to the dashboard. So dashboard looks something like this, right? And here it will allow us to launch to console. So console is like your another dashboard where you're going to do the work, right? Like creating database, running your GraphQL queries, monitor, etc., right? So as you can see from the tab, this is the API tab where you get to do all the API testing like you do with Postgres also, right? So right, next thing is data tab. This is the tab we need in order to connect to something, right? So if you already have a database, then you can give its name, then use the driver here, right? Then you use connection parameters or URL. Then you have extension schema, right? Then connection settings, fields, right? And all those necessary for reading your Postgres data, right? Now let's assume that you don't have access to existing database. So what you can do in this case is click on create new database, right? Here you can see serverless Postgres. Oh, this is basically one free instance of Postgres given by Neon. So we will connect to that, right? So you can click on that. So this could happen. Pop-up seems to be disabled, so we'll have to allow pop-up, and as you can see it will be allowing us to create one account, right? You can continue with Hasura here. It will let you log in, so pay attention to that pop-up part. And once you log in to Neon console, it will show you to authorize this. Then you move on to next step, right? And here you will have to select try again, right? So we need to create projects, authorize again, and it is creating database, connecting back to Hasura now. So once we have that, we have one data source here, right? So here you can see we have one database named default, right? And it has this public folder within which we will have to create a table. Here you can also see the view database notification. If you click on it, it should show you the same public folder here. Now we will need to create a table in order to have some data to go through. So let's say my table name here is company, right? I don't want to comment on table here. Instead I will just keep on creating the columns here. So let's say it has ID column type I want is integer, default value is nothing for now, Then let's see, I want name, right? I want it as text, or you can have it like varchar. So that's one thing. Then say I have salary field, so I'm just collecting the user's name, salary, C integer, right? And then let's see department, which is again a text, right? So these are some of the things I want within table, right? So apart from that, we also need to think of primary key, which is id, right? Then we don't want anything else, no foreign keys, no unique keys, constraint no, we will just add the table. So let's see, table is created, and here you see our table to browse through, right? And we can browse the table here. Currently we don't have anything, id, name, salary, department, so we will just add some data. So insert row, so here let's see id1 text, let's add some salary here, right? Now I will save this. So we got one row added, and let's add second one, right? Insert that, then third, right? We add like 3 rows here so far, and fourth one, right? So like we have 4 rows here to view, and we can browse them, right? As you can see, we have our data ready here. Now you can think of relationship if there are multi tables or any specific column that you want to relate with foreign key, right? Then you have permission to set here. As you can see, admin has everything. If you added any extra user, you can give it some access, like selecting that but not inserting, updating, or deleting. So let them view the data, something like that, right? There is modify column, you get to modify the columns. You can work with unique keys, constraints, indexes, right? You can do that. So here we go back here, you can also take a look at few things like export data, but I want to keep it for the last, right? So still we can check out how that works. So if we click on export data, it seems like the option goes below for some reason, and we can view it. So let's take a look at another feature, which is run query. So when we run the query, it will just select the table and show us, right? Apart from that, we can use filter and sort and then run the query as well, right? And if you have more than 10 rows, then you can go through the table simply by clicking previous and next, right? So it looks like the table is pretty hard to use, but I guess they have their reasons to design it like that. Your typical uh, table output would work a lot differently, like say MySQL and all that typical workbench or so. They have better ways to handle this sort of thing, but here, as you can see, Hasura has different ways to do this, right? So we have like one data source, we created a table, added some data, right? And we can even try GraphQL on this, right? So let's see if we try a query. If we run this, here you can see we got our table data turned into this API output, and at the top you can even see the post request for this, right? Here you can even check the query that we just created without having to touch the keyboard, right? So we managed to create the database, we managed to add some data, right? Then we also created a GraphQL query with the option that was given to us within the data tab, right? And then when we run the query, we got the JSON output as expected, right? So if we check the data tab here, and if we check the table with the output, here you can see all of this tabular data is converted into your API output like this, right? So if you have any other data which can benefit from creating the GraphQL API, you should create such table or get connected to such data source so that you can run the GraphQL queries, create API and deploy it. So pretty much this is the setup you can do with Hasura and create a database within that cloud instance.